It begins, as all ordinary nights do, in a room filled with people, laughter, music, and the quiet warmth of belonging. But what waits beyond the light is not ordinary. It is patient, it is cunning, and it wears a face you think you know. The room had the smell of tired perfume and spilled whiskey, the low hum of conversation stitched to the scrape of chairs. Lamps threw a lemon yellow wash over familiar faces, cousins, friends, a handful of neighbors, and at the center of the small orbit, she stood beside the man she loved. They smiled in the way people smile when futures are being made, quick, rehearsed, and bright enough to hide the tremor beneath. He was the last to leave the group. "I'll be right back," he said, kissing her knuckle the way he always did, like a promise folded into a gesture. She nodded. Everyone assumed he'd gone for cigarettes, for a call, for something ordinary. The party kept on. Someone laughed too loud. Songs swapped into other songs. Minutes unspooled like beads. When the girl walked away later, to fetch the small velvet box from the other room that had the old family candles, the corridor swallowed her. The house had always been like that. Rooms that read like memories, thresholds that changed shape in dimness. The door clicked shut behind her. Then the world narrowed to the sound of her breath and the creak of the floor. She pushed the switch. Darkness. For a second, she thought the bulb had blown. Then she felt heat and the silhouette of a body on the bed. Familiarity hit her before sense did. The set of the shoulders, the slope of the jaw, the man who'd left. Relief softened her spine. "You're back," she said, and the voice that answered was perfectly, horribly right. He stepped toward her from the shadow as if he had always been waiting in it. Up close, everything about him was a copy. The laugh lines, the patch of hair that refused to behave, the mole by his left ear. The room smelled like him, the same cologne she'd memorized, but beneath it the air had another odor she couldn't place, older and colder, like the inside of a tomb. The door latched shut with a soft, final click. What happened next needed no detail. It needed only the small, terrible fact. She trusted him. She believed she knew him. She believed the face that bent above hers. Screams would have made sense. So would a sudden flight. But trust and confusion braided into something else. Disorientation, a quiet acceptance routed through the wrongness like a splinter. Later, when memory unfurled in broken fragments, the ache would be there, and along with it a different, rawer truth. She had been with a thing that wore his skin and spoke in his voice. For days after, she moved like a marionette whose strings had been retied. At first it was the little things, the way her fingers grazed door frames, the way she kept pausing at the foot of the stairs as if listening for footsteps that weren't there. Then came the intrusions, glimpses of him in reflective glass, the sensation of someone standing in a doorway just beyond her sight. She would turn, and there he would be, leaning against a lamppost at midnight, smiling on the other side of a grocery aisle, sitting on a bus, as if he had always been there. He appeared to her like a refrain she could not forget. Those around her noticed the change before she did. She laughed less at jokes. She began humming songs backwards, sentences sliding oddly out of order. Her real fiancé, the man who had left the party, the one with the small, honest smile, came to her with concern written plainly on his face. He took her hand one evening when the sun was just a bruise on the horizon. "You're distant," he said. "Talk to me." She wanted to tell him everything. The locked door, the shadow with his face, how a presence had folded itself around her like a second skin. But the possibility that they were the same man cried nervousness into her throat. How could she explain that the person she loved might also be the person who had violated her? Language bent under the weight of it. So she lied to him by omission. He tried tenderness as an anchor. He tried jokes. At night, he would slide his hand across the bed, searching. She let his touch find her, and for a moment, in the warmth of his palm, the ghost receded like tidewater pulled by the moon. But when he drew closer, she felt an awareness bloom inside her, a cold, deliberate attention that was not his. Her eyes would flick to the door and she would see, standing there in the fugue of her mind, the other man. He watched with hunger as if their shared body were only a stage and she was a puppet. One afternoon, when the weight of it became unbearable, she decided to leave, to put miles between herself and the house that had turned itself into a trap. She walked until the roads blurred into a smear of sun and tar, and the gas station at the edge of town came into view, fluorescent lights and the low, honest hum of pumps. She edged around to the back where fewer people would notice a face that wanted to disappear. As she tucked herself into the alley behind dusty sacks of charcoal, a voice slid out of the shadows. "Where are you going?" It said, his voice, and not his voice. She looked up. There he was, as calm as a man at a wedding. She tried to move past him. His hand closed on her. "You think you can escape me? You think you can run away from me?" She became very scared and screamed. She screamed out and woke up from her dream and rushed and hugged her husband. The ghost remains a lesson written on the skin. As she narrates her dream to her